Alright guys, it is time for a leftover makeover. First I have some water here in a big pot with well salted that I'm getting ready to boil. I'm going to start creating a sauce over here. I do have a cup of my homemade sauce, but that is not going to be enough. So I have this can of crushed tomatoes that we're going to use. The leftover portion is this plant-based pepperoni that we did not get to use, so I needed to find a use for that. And I have this Trader Joe's vegan Italian style sausageless sausage that needs to be used up before it goes bad. I don't know where the date is, but it's supposed to go off after this week. And then I have this as the cheese, which is the Tree Line non-dairy cashew mozzarella. And I'm going to shred this up and put that in there. But first we're going to make another sauce here. Basically I'm going to put this in the pan with that, some garlic, a bunch of herbs. But first I'm going to cook up the meat that I have. Alright, we're going to add about 1 tablespoon of olive oil, maybe 2 if you're feeling generous. Alright, I've got about a 1/4 cup of frozen onion. That's all I have left in here. We're going to put that in the pan and we're going to let that cook a little bit, and then we're going to add 1 of my 2 tablespoon cubes of garlic powder, minced garlic, and then a 2 tablespoon cube of my tomato paste. So my water is boiling. So the pasta I'm going to be using today is the farfalle. I also would really like rigatoni with this, but I really find that this smaller shape works well to get like a little bite of everything all at once. So for the sausage, we're just going to cut these into medallions. All right, and we're going to dump this in the pan with the onions. And we're going to let the sausage cook for a little bit, and then we're going to add this pepperoni. We're just going to add it in whole. We're just going to try to separate them so they're not into big clumps. Alright, this is starting to look good. We're getting a lot of color on those onions. Sausage is feeding through. Now we're going to add our pepperoni. Basically, we're just going to stir this around and try to get this pepperoni cooked through a little bit too, because it's really not going to crisp up once it hits the sauce. I did just add a splash of water to help deglaze the pan because I've got a little bit of stickage going on. Just a tinge. I am going to crank down the heat a little bit too. Now we're going to add our 2 tablespoons of garlic that I froze and our 2 tablespoons of tomato paste that I froze. We're going to add another splash of water. Alright, now we're going to add some seasonings in here. I've got a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of dried basil, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, and about 1/8 a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. And we're just going to let that toast a little bit. Just warm up those spices, wake them up, and then mix it in. And then I'm going to add in my already made homemade sauce, and then I'm going to add in the can of crushed tomatoes to this. We're going to add a teaspoon of salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. So we added the can of crushed tomatoes and probably like 1/3 cup of water just to get the residual out of the pan, or out of the can. And we're just going to mix that up, get it in there, well incorporated. I'm going to cover this and let it simmer while we finish cooking up the pasta. And you can reserve some of the pasta water if you'd like. I'll probably reserve some of it just in case. Alright, and that is looking pretty good. It's simmering away, looking really nice. So we're going to go ahead and add it now to our pasta. And I went ahead and shredded that whole block of cheese. This whole thing is going in there. Yes, it looks like a lot, but it is a pizza pasta. Alright, now let's mix this together, and then we will add the cheese in and stir that in. Put the lid on it and let it melt. Alright, and the cheese goes. Jiggle, 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 jiggle. And there she is, guys. Just look at that. And this one really is a crowd pleaser. It's hearty, it's cheesy, and you could have added some nutrition to the sauce too if you want to be a little bit extra. I like to do that sometimes too. But this is perfect, and it smells pizza-y. And this is the way my family usually eats it, with some Parmesan on top. If you have some fresh basil, put that in there. It is delicious. Quick, easy, leftover makeover for a weeknight dinner.